Welcome back, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm starting a new series on the channel. It's going to be called Succeeding with Stoicism. I want for this series to take a real deep dive approach into the philosophy of Stoicism. Stoicism is a philosophy that I stumbled across probably a little over a year ago, and it's fascinated me. Like, it really gripped me since then, and I've benefited greatly from it since I stumbled across it. So I want to take a deep dive approach into what Stoicism is. We can talk about, let's say, for example, individual key prominent figures, influential figures of the philosophy. We can talk about some of the important tenets, the core principles and concepts and teachings of Stoicism. And in other videos, I think we can take a broader, more holistic view of what the philosophy is, how it can apply to our daily life and things like that. But for this first video, I thought it'd be helpful to ask probably one of the essential questions before we take a deep dive into any philosophical school of thought. And the question is, what is Stoicism? I've asked myself that question a lot since I've become a student of Stoicism, and I've watched a lot of videos on YouTube. I've watched the Daily Stoic on YouTube. If you guys haven't heard of Ryan Holiday and his channel Daily Stoic, he's an author. He has a few books that are Stoic themed, Stoic inspired books, and I'll include a link for his channel in the description, or you can just watch. You can just search it on YouTube pretty easily. His videos are really cool. And there are plenty of other people. I think Stoicism has seen like a modern day resurgence. Just in the past, a few years, I've seen a pretty big resurgence in Stoicism, which is awesome. But I have yet to come across like a universal one-size-fits-all definition. Maybe that doesn't exist, but I'll take a crack at it, what I think. To me, from what I've read, what I've seen, what I've heard about Stoicism over this last year and a half or so, the definition that I can craft based on what I've experienced. To put it as simply as I can, I think Stoicism is a philosophy for thriving in the chaos and brutality and harshness of life. I think that's about as simple of a definition as I can offer for Stoicism. Because Stoicism, what I think is unique about the philosophy of Stoicism from other schools of thought that I've encountered is that Stoicism certainly does not ignore the harsh realities of life, and it also doesn't shy away from said realities. Quite the opposite. What Stoicism does instead is it actually leans into the harsh realities of life with a lot of its key concepts and teachings, which I found really interesting. And some of them I found to be kind of disturbing or even morbid, which we'll talk about. There's a story, for example, behind this necklace that I wear. I'm not sure how well you guys can see this necklace. There's a story behind this necklace, not in this video, but that'll be one of our individual concept videos we'll talk about. That'll come in the future. So that's the most simple definition for Stoicism that I can think of. If I want to get a little more specific, I could break it down into a twofold component definition, if you want to say. So I would say that Stoicism is the practice of attaining and maintaining mental clarity or mental resiliency and mental tranquility, I would say. I'll repeat that, the practice of attaining and maintaining mental tranquility and resiliency. Stoicism, when you read the big guys of Stoicism, and I'll have further videos down the road on some of the big guys of Stoicism, the key prominent figures of the philosophy. But some of the people, when you start studying Stoicism, that you're going to come across are Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. Those are the three. Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor. He led Rome for 15 years, if I believe. He's considered, I don't know all the proper terms. I believe he's grouped together in what scholars call one of the five good emperors or golden emperors, something like that. If in the comments you can correct me if I'm wrong. And I also believe he's widely considered to have been the last good emperor of Rome before Rome's slow decay and eventual fall. So Marcus Aurelius, with his book The Meditations, which I've talked about before, is a key figure. I would say Seneca was, among other things, a philosopher, of course, a Stoic philosopher, and a writer and a playwright, I believe. And his most important role in politics in Rome when he was alive was he was the advisor to Emperor Nero, and that's a video for another time to talk about his role as advisor. And there are some controversies around exactly who Seneca was in his life. But regardless of the controversy, Seneca has a lot of good things to read. He has a lot of good lessons to teach us. And then Epictetus is our third figure, a prominent figure who helped develop the Stoic doctrines. And Epictetus was a slave before becoming a freedman, and then he became a philosopher and a teacher, and had students where he taught Stoicism and similar things like that. So those are the three big people that you hear about. And you're going to hear them talk a lot about, they may not say mental resiliency or mental tranquility explicitly, but the concepts they talk about, the ways of life that they invite people, you and I, to try and practice and adopt, help us attain mental tranquility and mental resiliency. Stoicism, like I said, in the simplest definition that I can think of, is a philosophy for leaning into and facing the harsh realities of life. So when I talk about the mental resiliency component, there are a lot of concepts in Stoicism that help you to harden yourself, to callous your mind, not to become ignorant to life's sufferings, but to callous your mind so that you can take it, so that when the going gets rough, you can bounce back and keep moving forward and not complain and not descend into bitterness and resentment. And we'll talk about the individual components of Stoicism and some of the key teachings that help us cultivate a tougher, more resilient mind. But that's one of the two big parts of Stoicism, helping us become tougher, helping us to become more resilient in our thoughts and our feelings, not to react quickly and emotionally to other people's criticisms, and not to complain and not to fall into bitterness and resentment and despair when hard times befall us in life. And the second component, much like the two sides of this coin, the second component is mental tranquility. Just as much as Stoicism helps us learn how to become tougher, Stoicism also teaches us how to become calmer, especially in these moments of stress, of uncertainty. At the time I'm recording this video right now, much of the world is going through the harsh effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Right now, where I'm at in the United States, I'm still under, where I live in my state, our county's under a stay-at-home lockdown, and it's been that way for over a month. And I'm only speaking of my situation where I live here in the States. For other people in other parts of the world, this pandemic has hit them even worse, and it depends on your individual situation, of course, but everyone across the world is feeling the effects of this. Now, if you're watching this video in the future, hopefully this is a thing of the past and we've gotten through this. But this COVID-19 pandemic, at least at the time that I'm talking about, is a good example of how Stoicism can help us to to maintain mental tranquility during certainly what are uncertain, stressful, trying times, very chaotic times, and the uncertainty and the anxiety that results as a consequence from that. It's tough. It's really tough. And Stoicism helps us remain calm. Stoicism helps us to not act irrationally. Stoicism helps us to not act out our emotions always, it helps us to cultivate the sense of mental tranquility and to be calm and to not react emotionally to everything that happens to us in our lives. It can be easy to, with this pandemic we're going through example, or for any other time in your life of great uncertainty and great stress, if you're living in high stress environments, Stoicism can help you to remain calm and to remain rational, to think rationally and objectively to help get yourself out of sticky situations. And those are the two big parts of Stoicism. I offered my big simple definition, and then I broke it down a little more into a little bit more specific definition, that Stoicism is about the art, you could say, the art or the practice of attaining and maintaining mental toughness or resiliency and mental calmness or tranquility. It's been a very helpful philosophy for me so far. It's fascinated me, and I've benefited a lot from it, and I hope you guys will as well. So, going back to my maybe oversimplified definition of Stoicism, is that Stoicism is a philosophy for how to not just face but thrive in the chaos and harshness and brutality and cruelty characteristic of life. When we find ourselves in these very hard, unforgiving situations, we can turn to Stoicism to help us maintain a tough and calm mind throughout all of it. That's what Stoicism is to me. I don't think you're going to find a one-size-fits-all definition. I think everyone approaches the philosophy from different experiences in life, from different angles, and since so many things are subjective, people take different things out of the same philosophy, and it helps some people in different ways. For others, maybe it doesn't at all. Maybe you have a better way of thinking, a better philosophy or religion, and we can touch on all those things in these videos. But this was an introduction to a new series I'm starting, Succeeding with Stoicism. I hope that it's going to be helpful. I've really been enjoying everything, and I want to pass this along to you guys and also learn along the way, because like I said, I'm no expert. I certainly do not know everything about Stoicism. I don't claim to be any kind of philosopher or scholar, but I hope that we can learn along this journey and that it can help us all. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe for more content in the future, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.